Happy Sabbath, everyone. Thank you to Pastor Arnold for inviting me. Pastor Arnold baptized me 10 years ago at BIC, and I've never, so he just asked me to come and share my story because when he gave me Bible studies, I was not stable at all. And it took a lot of work to make me get to the point to want to be an Adventist, but even after I was baptized, I had lots of things I had to learn. So I want to share some of those things and hopefully give some ideas of how we can reach Thai people, which is, I think we all know, many of you have been here a long time, it's very, very hard. It's very hard. Thailand is called a missionary graveyard for good reason. It's very difficult to share. And so let me just pray to start. Father in heaven, I just ask that you be with me as I share. I want to do this, be sensitive and do this rightly in case people, my friends or family see. And we just ask for wisdom because we want people to know you and know how good you are. But it's hard because of our own issues and sharing, and also because of people's misconceptions that they have towards you. So I just pray that I could help and maybe share some things that will bless people as they, in their relationship with you and also in their relationship with their non-Christian friends. So I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. I actually believe that there's many miracles in the Bible, but probably the thing that's most miraculous is for God to actually change who someone is. To be grown up a certain way and to have your whole mind change, it's very, very difficult. I can see it with my friends, my family. When I became an Adventist, I thought that I could share with my friends and family, not realizing how difficult it is to change the whole way you think. And for me, it was a very almost traumatic process I had to go through. My relationships with my friends and my family, all the things I had been taught, I had to flip them upside down. So we have to help people go through this process. So how does God do this? How does God perform this miracle of changing someone's whole heart, their mind, what they like, what they dislike, how they perceive the world, what they believe? The Bible says in Romans 12 to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And transform, it's actually to be made totally new, totally different. And that's what God expects, or what God wants for non-Christians. You can imagine if someone is Thai, they've grown up their whole life speaking Thai, they don't know English, the way they talk even, chat na, chat lang, in my next life, in my past life. This is in the same way that us in America, or we say, oh my God, or they don't say, oh my, they say, in my next life, I hope I'll be born rich. Or it's so deeply ingrained in how you think. Sometimes it's almost impossible to get them to think that's not actually how it is. That's not real. And the whole system of logic, of like every Thai man has been a monk, pretty much every Thai man. So they're already invested in this system, and but we know that, but we know it's possible, right? So this is me. I'll just tell a little bit about myself. These are my parents and my sister. My dad's an American doctor. He came to Thailand to do HIV research with the U.S. Army, and he worked at Aframs, if anybody knows that. He grew up Sunday Christian, but not very strong. His dad was a doctor. Great-granddad was a doctor, all doctors. And, if anybody knows doctors, they're some of the first people to give up the gospel, historically, because they believe in science, right? So he went to university, and he told me that my granddad would go to church and was an active member in church because that was what was expected in society, but he didn't really believe, right? But my dad gave that up, so he gave that up. And he became more Buddhist, came to Thailand, met my mom. My mom, when I was younger, was not really Buddhist, but in her older age has become very Buddhist. Just today, she texted me and she said that she's going up to the north of Thailand for a week to do a meditation retreat. She has her own teacher, a monk. They're very, very serious. They will stay up all night meditating. They will look at, they will think about what happens after your death, and her group will have spirits and all sorts of stuff. So, but I would say that my religious inclination came from my mom. If my mom was also Western and secular, I think it's very hard for me to be religious, because she was less committed to that secular thinking. When you're secular, you're so sure that there's no, what you see is what you get. That's it. There's no angels, there's no miracles, there's no heaven, no hell. It's so hard to break out of that. And that's what I believed. Even though my mom was Buddhist, we go to the temple, I didn't believe in ghosts. I didn't believe in reincarnation. I believed in science, right? Science. And so I went to this fancy international school called the International School of Bangkok with all the richest kids. All my Thai friends are very rich, and when you're rich, you don't need anything, right? You don't need God. You have money, you can buy whatever you want, you have no problems. And the thing most important to us in that school growing up was to be cool, right? Do anything it takes to be cool, right? At least for me, that was what was most important to me. I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to be accepted by other guys. And because by nature I'm kind of nerdy. I like to read. I was good at school, and I was, teased a little bit. And I said, I'm not going to be teased. So I was committed to not being a nerd. So I got into rap music, and I would even this is kind of weird to think about, but I would purposely get answers wrong on a test so that my score is not too high, because then my friends would tease me, right? So I want to just get a B. I don't need to get an A. And in about 8th grade, maybe end of 8th grade, I started. These things influenced me a lot, and they made me not really believe in school, which has its good and bads, because school is, but it also made me interested in things that aren't good. So I started drinking and smoking, end of 8th grade, maybe in high school. I drank and smoked, and I did lots of drugs. And for me, my mindset, I liked doing drugs. Everybody has different weaknesses. For some people, it's chocolate or sweets. For other people, they tend to be lazy. Other people, they're workaholics. They work too hard, maybe eat too much or watch too much TV. But for me, I like drugs more than food, more than women, and I felt that when I did marijuana or I did some other drugs, that this is what I was looking for. I felt like this would help me to expand my mind, and of course this caused issues with my dad. This comes to one of the first points I want to share about when we share with Buddhists. When they ask questions or anybody, why do you not eat pork? You cannot say, you should not say, you can say, but you shouldn't say, because God said so. It doesn't work. And that's exactly what my dad did to me. Even though he's not Christian, I would smoke marijuana and I would leave it out, because I was not I'm not a good liar. I'm not good at hiding things. So I felt that marijuana is okay. It shouldn't be illegal. Now it is legal, but back then it was illegal. And I felt that these laws that made it illegal are wrong. And I have the right to smoke it. And my dad said, no, you shouldn't smoke. And I would say, why? Why? And he said, because it's illegal. But for me, that's not a good enough reason. I needed something deeper. And this is where, as parents, we need to think about these things and think about how to tell our children. My dad, because he was so busy, he didn't have time to think about that. He's just like, well, it's just bad. It's bad. Don't do it. But I wish now that he had told me, like, Danny, it's going to make you lazy. It's going to make you stupid. It's going to affect your memory. It's going to, your personality is changing, which is true. Even my sister told me later on, she said, Danny, you were such a fun older brother, but once you started smoking marijuana, you didn't want to do anything. All you did was just sit in front of the TV. You became a boring person. I said, whoa, that's not what I thought at the time. At the time, I thought I'm cool. But yeah, so I wish that that was sort of, I had gotten those reasons for why it's bad, rather than just it's bad, right? And same thing with the Bible. Like, with many questions that people have, they'll say, like, why do you need to accept Jesus to go to heaven? We need good reasons, not just we're sinners and Jesus died for our sins. It's not really clear to people. It's not really clear. Like, for me now, it took me many years. When I became a Christian, I did not understand Jesus on the cross. I said, what does that mean? And I realize now that the way I would describe it now, because my dad asked me once, he said, what am I saved from? What am I saved from? What do I need saving from? Why is God going to burn me? Why does he need to burn me? These are hard questions to answer. And when we get hard questions, we need to think about it. We need to admit that, yeah, these are good questions. I need to think about it. I need to pray about it. And we need to study. Now I wish, I said at that time, well, we're sinners and, we need to accept Jesus because God's not happy with us. It's not a good answer. For my dad, that was like, that's what I heard when I was young. And I don't accept that. For me now, I would say something like, we're sick. We have a sickness. And Jesus is trying to help us with our sickness. And him dying on the cross is part of showing us our problem, which is that we think we know what God is like, but we don't know. And we need to accept God for who he is, not according to our own ideas. That's what the Jews did. So things like this, we want to be more creative in how we give our answers to people. Okay, just a few more things about drugs, just for any kids. Drugs, they really mess with you because it becomes your life. It becomes your personality. And you make friends through the drugs. So for example, when I went to university, everyone's new. I didn't know anybody. So the only way I knew to make friends was to say, I would see somebody with a shirt, like a Bob Marley shirt, say, oh, you smoke weed? You want to smoke? You want to be friends? But the problem is that you surround yourself with people who are doing drugs. And actually the friendship is not really deep. The friendship is based on the drugs. And that can have big problems, especially if you don't have much money, because it starts to be like, who's paying for the drugs? And who, you paid more, I paid last time, are you going to pay? And and oftentimes the drugs are more important than the relationship. So you also get, if the environment is bad, it can start to have like stealing and betrayal. But in my case, it wasn't that bad, but it's just sad because, I didn't have real hobbies. I wouldn't go to class. I had one friend that all he did was smoke weed and play World of Warcraft. That's it. He didn't even leave his room. He's paying tens of thousands of dollars for university in America, and he just dropped out. And it's sad. It's sad to see your friends just drop out of school, and you never see them again. I never saw him again. And many people like that. We get in trouble with the law, and so that was a big thing. For me, the other big things were I would forget my tie. For me, I always had issues with my tie. And when I would smoke marijuana, I would just forget all my tie. And all the progress I would make in improving my tie would be lost. And I think that that's true with many things, not just Thai. I would cancel meetings. I would tell people that, hey, I'll go to a concert with you. But then in the day, I'm too lazy. I don't want to do it. Miss opportunities and and after a while, you do it for a while, you start to become paranoid and depressed. Just to quickly go through this, Pastor Arnold knows some of this stuff. I'm 37 years old, and when I was in high school, this event happened. This really affected me. I remember the school, because it's a U.S. government school, we canceled, school was closed for 2 days. And I remember wondering, why do people hate the U.S. so much that they're willing to kill themselves just to kill some random people in a building? This seems crazy. And so this really bothered me, that's why I ended up studying politics. And I went to the Middle East. In university, I studied Arabic and I studied Islam, and But at the same time, even though I was sort of serious about these things, I was not serious. I was still drinking and doing drugs, and then I remember, this is just one last thing, that this was one of the big wake-up moments for me. I was a senior in university, and I got really drunk one day, and I got in a fight with my friend. And he picked me up and slammed me. He's a big rugby guy. And I broke my ankle really bad. Like, my ankle was like here, my foot. And I was so drunk that I didn't even feel the pain. I was on the floor, I couldn't move. And I woke up in the hospital. And it was a very serious break. And the doctor told me that, if this was 50 years ago, you would not be able to walk anymore. 50, 60 years ago. You're lucky that technology and medicine has developed enough. And I realized I'm blessed. I'm blessed that I have parents willing to pay for my injury. And what am I doing with my life? Like, I'm just getting drunk, and I almost ruined my whole life with breaking my leg. And so it really caused me to think. The big thing was I need to drink less. That's what I got from that. I finished university. I didn't know what to do with my life. Usual stuff. And I had this issue. I moved to New York City, and I was still partying and drinking there. And I started getting this issue called psoriasis. And for me, it was like these little dots on my skin. And I felt very ashamed about it. And I felt like embarrassed. And I said, what's going on? And when you're young, you think that you can do whatever you want and you have no consequences, right? And this was a big thing. We're like, oh, what's this thing? And I went to the doctor, and the doctor said, well, you have too much stress. And you drink, you can't, if you want it to go away, you have to stop drinking, stop smoking, and sleep more. So that was like, what? I'm not even that old. I need to drink less? And I really noticed that when I would drink alcohol, the next morning I would wake up and it would be worse. It would get worse. So I could see that there was a connection. So I actually thank God for this disease, because even though it's a big hassle, God used it. He allowed it to help me reconsider how I was living my life. And it also caused me to wake up, because what happened was the doctor gave me cream, like steroid cream, that it didn't help my psoriasis. And I was like, what? My parents are both doctors, so I thought that, doctors should know everything. How come I'm not getting better? And I remember one day I was at my pool, and I was just getting I was sun tanning. And the sun cleared my skin. It healed my psoriasis. Like, very noticeably, it helped my psoriasis. So I remember I went on Google, and then people were saying it online, like, oh yeah, sunlight, it's good for skin conditions, eczema, psoriasis. And I thought to myself, how come that no doctor told me? How come no doctor told me? It's so obvious. Yeah. Well, and that's when I started to think, like, maybe doctors don't know everything. So I started to doubt my science upbringing and wonder, because my parents took me to the best skin doctors in Bangkok. They never told me that. And I remember asking them later, like, oh, yeah, maybe that helps. I'm like, not maybe. That was the best thing by far for me. So I started to feel like, I don't know about these doctors. So I became very depressed. I had a big thing where I was like, humans are useless. I mean, we're so bad. All we can do is turn the planet into trash. We take what's good in nature and we turn it into garbage. And if we live long enough, this whole planet will just be garbage. That's it. Well, and I would tell my parents this. I said, we can't fix the world. Us humans, the harder we try to fix things, we're so selfish. We're just going to destroy everything. So there's no point having kids. There's no point having grandkids. Look at global warming and all these problems, pollution and war, and we can't fix these. I got very depressed. The more I would study, the more negative I would feel. Like, soon there'll be no fish left in the ocean. There'll be no animals left. All we do is kill all the animals, and we make plastic, and the plastic's for millions of years. So this is where my mind was at. And my parents were feeling sorry for me. They're like, and they would feel bad too, because they're like, oh yeah, sorry, we left a bad world for you to live in. Okay. So you can see I'm looking for answers, right? And when you're trying to share, you're looking for people. You want to see people who are looking for something. A lot of people aren't. Most people are just, they're not thinking this way, but a lot of people are. And so when you see them, you want to try to engage them in what they're thinking about. I went to study my master's in Wales. I was studying philosophy. I thought that I could get answers from philosophy. And so it was all international people. This is Afghanistan, India. And there was two people that were very influential to me. It was this man, this lady. She was a Baptist from Nigeria. And for me, she was the right person at the right time to wake me up, because she was a very strong Christian. And she was very serious. And she was from northern Nigeria, where they have many problems with Muslims, like civil war. And so she really felt like she would pray a lot. She would tell me, like, I'm really praying, I'm fasting for my family because there's war. And I was like, whoa, like, I met Christians, but I never met strong Christians like that. I met Christians that if you push them a little bit, they just fall. Right? They're very, and that's why I would push her, because I'm at that time I'm very anti-Christian. I feel like Christians, because I study politics, I felt like most Christians in America, they love war. They went to war in Iraq. Like they vote for Bush, and Bush fights in Iraq and fights in, fighting Muslims, and it's the uneducated people. That's why I thought. They don't know anything about science, and Christianity is used to control people. So remember I told her, I said, because she would tell me, she's like, Danny, can you not say like, oh my God, like Jesus, like it's not really good, like it kind of, for me, I'm a Christian, I don't like. And I was like, like no one really dared to tell me like that. So I always said, but at the same time, I admired her. I felt like, wow, she has guts to dare to tell me that. And I also thought, why am I saying, oh my God, all the time? I'm not a Christian. I don't want to say that. So I said, okay, I'll stop. But I said, let me ask you something. Christianity, that's a white man's religion. And white people took Africans as slaves. Christians did that to you. How can you be Christian? That's how I wouldn't really dare say that nowadays. But at that time, I don't know, I was like, I had a lot of anger. And so I wanted to push her. And she said, she didn't argue with me. She didn't get angry. This is the thing, you can't get angry. The moment you get angry, the other person feels like they won. See, I made you angry, so your religion isn't real. This is how people think. You have to keep your cool. And she was like, those were not real Christians. They didn't understand Christianity. Very simple answer. But it was very effective. She said, Danny, there's many people who don't understand the religion. They say they're Christian, but they don't follow. Just like they say they're other religions, but they don't follow. So it was a very easy answer. She didn't argue with me. I said, maybe that's true. And then she said, Danny, why are you so angry? Like You read the Quran. You said that you went to study Islam. You study Buddhism. But what, you gave those religions a chance. How come you don't give, you ever read the Bible? No. You should just read and see for yourself. I said, okay. And so I took, she gave me her Bible. And then she would kind of just gently be like, Danny, did you read anything? And, I'd be like, but yeah, I started reading. I remember I would smoke marijuana and read, smoke. And I kind of got into it. I said, wow, like, this is more interesting than I thought, especially compared to the Quran, which, the Quran to me is just only Psalms. That's what it feels like. If the Bible was only Psalms. So for me, especially when I first started, I didn't like Psalms. I liked the history. I liked Samuel, I liked prophecy, I like Isaiah. Even though I don't believe it, I just like reading it. I feel like it's interesting. And so she was very important for that. And then I remember another guy, an Italian man, said, she would be sharing about her dream that she had, or, like that Jesus said not to gossip, things like this. And we're not Christian, we're all eating together. And one Italian man who was studying with us, he was like, what about dinosaurs and, evolution? And she said, I don't believe in that. You can believe that. You believe that. I don't believe. So I was like, whoa, okay. So for me, I 100% believed that at that time. Yeah. And then this other man, at the same time, because I studied politics, I was studying about the Catholic Church in Thailand, in Japan, in India, and how colonialism fit with Catholicism, and how Catholicism. That's actually why I was not happy with Christianity, because I said that Christianity gave people the justification for empire. That's what I thought. So I was studying these things, and I was also started studying about the Reformation, about Martin Luther, and I liked Martin Luther. I felt like this guy. We owe a lot to him. We owe a lot to the Reformation. So I started to get more respect for the reformers. So I was sharing about the Catholic Church and how they did this, they did that. And no one knows very few people know these things. But this man, he studied computer science. His name is Philemon from Zambia. And he's like, oh yeah, I still remember his words. Oh yeah, Jesuits, very bad. Because I was doing research on the Jesuits. I was like, what? I wasn't even talking to him. I was talking to someone else. I said, Philemon, what you know about that? Because usually we only talk about football, Man U, Arsenal, this sort of stuff. He's like, oh, yeah, I know lots. Here, take some. And he gave me like information. I remember he gave me secret terrorists. He told me to look up secret terrorists and then like Walter Weith. And so I watched those things. I said, wow, these are very secret things. How you know this? And he said, oh, in my church, everyone knows. It's normal. I said, what church is that? Because in my mind, churches don't know anything. That's what I think. He said, oh, Seventh-day Adventist church. I said, what's that? What's the Seventh-day Adventist? What does that mean? He said, Saturday church. I said, Saturday? I never heard of it. I never heard of such a thing, Saturday church. Why Saturday? He said, oh, we follow the 10 Commandments. Seventh day. I said, you're telling me the Christians don't even follow the 10 Commandments? What? I was like, but because I had this sort of conspiracy mind already, or I was already studying, I knew that it's easy for people to be deceived. So I was like, that's so weird. And I remember Googling and studying, and I don't believe in God. But I just looking at the history, and I said, bro, this Saturday thing for sure is true. Christians should worship on Saturday. That's crazy. They don't even follow their own commandments. Come on. I said, I like your church because you guys got guts to be different. Let me visit your church. So that's what I said. He said, oh, okay. So I went with him to church. And that's how I first went to church in the UK. I liked it because it was very international. I didn't know anything. I just eat the food and I used to go once or twice and sure. That's how I started. I want to make this point. Why was it that these people were able to have success? And I want to get, this is my main verse I wanted to share. It says, the husbandman that labors must be first partakers of the fruit. Meaning, if you want to share the gospel, if you want to be a preacher of the gospel, you want to share the gospel, you must first have been blessed by it. You must feel that it's good, and you're sharing something good. Just in the same way that someone says, yo, these cookies are good, try it, right? If you don't think the cookies are good, you'll be like, yo, these cookies are good, try it. People can tell. And so for a lot of Christians, especially if you're a born Christian, maybe you don't have that experience. Or it's kind of like, yeah, we're Christian. You want to be Christian? Believe in Jesus, you'll be saved. But there's no passion, there's no feeling that other person gets that God is really blessing you. And with this lady, I got that feeling. I felt that she had this peace, that God was like, when she said that she's praying to God, she believed that God was going to answer her prayers. And I felt like I want what she has. She has peace. I don't have that peace. I feel like I'm lost in this world. And so I gave it a chance. And I believe that that's not just in little things. I believe that it also means other things, like for example, I have an anger issue, and it comes out. We need to ask God and overcome that anger issue, or whatever it is. If we have problems with our wife or with our kids, with our students, we need to overcome. We need to have the sense that with Jesus, I was able to overcome. And then once you're able to overcome, you're more able to share. You're more pure. You're more sanctified that you can share. Because when you try to share and people push you and you lose your temper, they can tell you like, it's nothing. It's nothing, right? So you have to keep growing in your religious faith and allow God to work in you, and not just be like, that's just who I am. I'm just someone who has a short temper. I don't think so. If you have a short temper, you need to overcome it. And we need to accept that certain things are sin and overcome. And then we can actually share. A big one for most men, this is a big one for me, is like pornography. And I was taught that it was okay. To stop that was it was harder than stopping alcohol and drugs. To stop looking at and stop, whether it's self-abuse, as Ellen White calls it, or fapping. It's hard. But if you can't overcome that, you can't share. I'm just telling you, it's just how it is. You can share some, but this Holy Spirit can't work as much as it wants to work. So you need to strive, you need to pray, and then you need to think creatively. For me, it was really hard. I want to get to this because I was converted by this book. Later on, I found this book in the library, this old Adventist book. This book converted me. It made me believe that God knew the future, had a plan for the future. And I was so excited. I came out to Thailand. Pastor Arnold knows. I was like, I'm going to be an Adventist. I'm an Adventist, And then I still remember, I don't know if Pastor Arnold remembers this. On the day of my baptism, because he was like, wow, you studied a lot. Okay. On the day of my baptism, he gives me a baptismal form where you agree to all these things, right? And one of them says, I will not drink alcohol or smoke cigarettes. I said, Pastor Arnold, what's this? He said, what do you mean? I'm like, I didn't know that. I didn't. And he's like, you don't know? You don't know? Us Adventists, we don't drink and smoke. Can't you see? I'm like, of course, who drinks and smokes Saturday morning? But maybe I didn't know that. So it's funny, I could have studied all these prophecies. I knew all about the Roman Empire and many things, but basic things I didn't know. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, because I didn't ever tell you this, Pastor Arnold. That very night, I went to a wedding and I drank my baptism night. Because that was my plan. And when I had to sign that, I was like, I didn't agree to this. And I almost didn't want to get baptized. I almost didn't. But my parents were there, my friends were there. It was one of the only times my friends ever came to church. I remember my friends, they came with sunglasses and they sat in the back. this. And so I told God, I said, God, I will try. I'll try. I will try to stop. It was very hard. It took me two, maybe 3 years after my baptism to finally stop. But I wanted to stop because I wanted to share what I learned. And I felt guilty. I felt like a hypocrite sharing when I was still drinking. But it's very hard because all my friends drink. And if I don't drink, I can't really see them. I can't really hang out with them. And I had no friend. I feel like I'm so different to people in the church. It's very hard. And so we have to be patient with people. And I just thank one friend of mine, Josh, because I would tell him, no matter what crazy things I would tell him, he kept his cool. He was like, yeah, okay. Oh, you did cocaine? Okay. But what, how do you feel? It's not that nice, right? I said, no, I don't like it. No. So slowly, and so through relationship, God can keep working on us, and slowly He changes us. I mean, some people can stop right away. For me, it wasn't like that. It took a long time, and it taught me discipline. It's very hard. And actually, for me, I had to become vegetarian too. It was only when I became vegetarian that I was able to stop smoking. I just had such low willpower, and so I don't know. The vegetarianism helped me. So yeah, I just want to finish there. I say that after I became a Christian, I still had this old mind. I straight away went to argue with people, especially my dad. I said, Dad, this evolution thing, there's no proof. Oh, he was so angry. He was so angry at me. We couldn't talk about religion for almost 4 years. Because he was like, what, you've been brainwashed? And I had the wrong spirit. I didn't do it the right way. I didn't have respect for my dad. And all the bad things that I did with him, he came back up, and it was really not good. So I had to deal with those things first. And I believe that we have to be partakers, that's what I said, of these fruit. And we need to have experience with Jesus and ask Jesus how to share. Not just assume that we know how to share. But that's what I thought. Well, I know how I was converted, so I'll go and tell my friends, evolution's a lie, and the Pope changed the laws, and that there's prophecy, and then they'll all believe. It's the same way as I did. My friends listened some, but when I told them that I would stop drinking, they didn't want to listen anymore. Because they're like, oh, we're happy to listen, but changing lifestyle is too serious. It's too serious. Yeah, so it's sad, and it's difficult sometimes. You want your friends to understand, but they have their own speed, and lastly, just a few more things about how to share. If you ever look at Ellen White and read and search cause and effect, she says it many times. We have to learn how to reason from cause to effect. And we need to be able to explain cause to effect. Like for example, why Saturday, not Sunday? And we need to have clear cause and effect. So for me, instead of just saying God said so, I will say something like, well, God blessed and sanctified the Sabbath day, so that day is holy. So God has put it into His universe that the seventh day is where you need to come to receive His Spirit. And if you need more, and we need His Spirit to overcome sin. So if you're serious about overcoming sin, you need to come into the Sabbath. This is why I say to Sunday people, there's not the special, there's more Spirit, there's a special feeling of the Holy Spirit in the Sabbath that's not there on Sunday. So that's why. Not because God said so, or we're saved by the law and all this. No. Right? Because that's how God designed His universe. In the same way that, the way I explain, if you smoke, you'll get cancer. It's cause to effect, right? God's not angry at us and gives us cancer. He's warning us. Same thing with all these things. They should be explained. And if you ever meet a Thai person, Thai people love cause to effect. They call it karma. It's all cause and effect. But their understanding of cause and effect is not clear. And to be fair, that's true for all of us. It's hard. Sometimes it's hard to know why something leads to something else. For example, in the Bible, it says, honor your parents that you live long. How? How does honoring your parents make you healthier and live long? But there must be a reason. There must be a reason. And I believe that actually, if you dishonor your parents, you cause yourself to have stress, and that stress will shorten your life. Very, very simply. So these things are trying to explain things in a scientific way. Cause to effect. And then when you try to share, just try to think of a few easy points that are important to you. Don't try to argue with people. Like for me, one of the big things I had the thought, I mean, it seems obvious, but I thought, how is it that the moon is perfectly the same size as the sun? How is that? When I was first starting to think about, oh, sorry, I don't know if you guys could hear me. I was first starting to think about if God created the world. I said, man, the moon and the sun the same size? That's impossible. That by chance? And I remember Googling, how was the moon created? It's like, oh, a meteor hit the earth, and dirt and dust went in the sky, and it formed the moon. I was like, man, the odds of that happening and being the same size as the sun is like impossible. So things like this, we can just use, not to argue with people, but just like we can say to people and just be like, doesn't it seem like it was created? Doesn't it seem that way? We just get people, like, or things like this, like, are you so sure about things that happened millions of years ago? Like, for example, they said that fish walked on land like 200 million years ago. Like, how do we know what happened? Don't say that it's wrong. Just say that, how do we know that happened? Like, we barely know what happened 5,000 years ago. How do we even know? How do we know? So things like that. Just, are we so sure? Are we so sure? Especially when everyone believed in the past that we were created. And then lastly, we want to explain this. I think this is one of the most important points. I'm sorry, I'm going a little bit long. Thai people are all religious. All. If you ask a Thai person, are you religious or not religious? They will never say, I'm not religious. There's no atheism. There's very few. So for them, the idea that a Westerner, a white person, so just say white person, is an atheist or has no religion is very strange. They're very strange. They assume that all white people are Christian. That's what they assume. And we have to explain to them that's not true. And we have to explain why. Why? Because for them it's like, why would I join a religion that you yourselves are leaving? Do you see Thai people leaving Buddhism? No. But you guys are leaving your religion. So why should I join your religion? You guys don't even want to be Christian. We have to show that because we have shared God in the wrong way. We have to admit. For example, we taught that people burn in hell forever, which is it's not true. It's not in the Bible. But people hear that, they say that God is bad, and they're no longer Christian. So people have the wrong idea about God. And it's easy to have a wrong idea about God because look, all the suffering in the world. If there's suffering, then God is not good. So we want to be vulnerable. We should be open that as Christians we're prone to misunderstanding God. And we're all in this together trying to understand God. Even though you're a Buddhist and I'm a Christian, we both are trying to understand this world better. We're both trying to understand God better. There's things about God that maybe we're getting wrong. And we want to explain this, and that many people are left, they have no religion because they had a bad experience. But it doesn't mean that God is bad. It's because us, humans, are bad. And we use religion for power or for politics. And they will relate to this because they'll say, yes, same in Buddhism. We use religion for politics. And so you can get common ground, right? Common ground. And lastly, you want to give a testimony. Like for me, the more I studied about Jesus being the Son of God, the more I was convicted that I was a bad son to my father, to my human father. And I looked at Jesus, the way he talks about his father, the way he says, I do nothing of myself. I only do what the Father tells me. I only do what pleases the Father. I love my Father. He honors his Father. He says, and the Father says, this is my beloved Son in whom I'm well pleased. As I studied this, I said, wow, Jesus is so committed to being a good son, for honoring his dad, for trying to, people have the wrong idea of God, and he wants to show the right idea. And I felt that I had dishonored my father, and when I truly came to repentance on that, I was able to have a better relationship with my father. I mean, he's not a Christian. I wasn't able to, but he's much more happy about Christianity now. He's more at peace with God, even though he doesn't. Before, when I would mention God, he would have a lot of anger towards God. But now he's more at peace with God. And that's because I'm more at peace with him. All these things are connected. So for me, I will always be thankful to Christianity for helping me heal my relationship with my dad. And that's real. That was real to me. Whether or not, evolution or there's a God or the Bible is real, those are things that are hard to answer. But for me, that happened. That really happened to me. And I became a more gentle person, a more kind person, a person who better understands my parents and what it's like to be a parent. So we can share things like that. So, and lastly, I think that I'll just close here that we want to be faithful in little things. And if we're faithful in little things, we'll be able to have more success. And I want to encourage church members that we can test our Christianity, and this sounds weird, but on our children. If we have worship with our children and they're bored, then how are we going to share to non-Christians? Our own children are bored and don't enjoy, right? And if they're bored, we should think that maybe I'm doing something wrong. I'm teaching something wrong, and ask God, why? I need more wisdom. I know that these things are good, that things are helpful, but how can I make it more interesting for my children, for my students? Oftentimes I hear that the students will say, values class is the most boring class in school. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. There should be ways to make values Bible class at EIS, at RAIS, at Trinity interesting in a way that helps them. Doesn't make them feel like they have to become Christians, but at least they get something out of it. All right, so I think if we do all these things, we will have more success, but we ourselves as Christians need to grow also, and that will help us to share. So thank you.